Hey guys, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. Special video. Today we're talking to Shopify's Director of Product for the entire next-gen dev platform that was just announced during Editions. We'll cover all the important updates and changes. And if you want to learn more about the new developer dashboard, check out our new learning path on Shopify Academy about app development fundamentals. Turned out really good, highly recommended. Link in the description. And with all that being said, let's dive right in. All right, Aitan, I'm super excited for our talk today. You are the director of product for the entire Shopify developer platform. And also Shopify Editions just dropped, so we have tons of important updates and new features to cover. But before we dive right in, do you want to give us an overview of what you do specifically or how your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I work in product on our dev platform, helping to lead it. And like really what our team, we work as groups of developers, product managers, UXers, data scientists who are coming together to build products. And our job in product is really to help ship the right product at the right time. So we're trying to figure out what are the most important problems that we need to solve for our developers. We need to like really shine a light on those problems, help people understand them, and then work together to help define solutions and say, okay, how are we going to go about this? And very often thinking kind of ahead, multiple years out of like what are we actually trying to accomplish?
Okay, I see. That's awesome. Are there like multiple directors of product then for like different niches or verticals, or is it like one director of product for all the sub branches, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, the way you can think about it is we have like a director of product, if you will, for each of the major jobs to be done with in terms of what merchants get in the box, right? So if you think about like, hey, if I'm starting a Shopify store today and I'm a brand new merchant starting on my entrepreneurial journey, right? I need to merchandise my products, right? So it's kind of merchandise. I have a storefront that I need to design and build, either using an off-the-shelf theme or one that I build myself. I need to help fulfill orders. So everything around fulfillment is kind of a job to be done. And then there's one of like building apps, like, hey, I want to go customize my shop in a certain way, whether that's checkout, admin, or different parts of it. And that's a job to be done that I work on.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Then yeah, thanks for the intro, and let us transition to the first topic. The first big topic I wrote down is the next generation developer platform, and
Yeah.
this is sort of a suite or bundle of new features, new initiatives that are coming. And at the center of it, or as a wrapper, we have the new developer dashboard. So yeah, why don't we get started right there? For someone who has never heard of this before, how would you explain what it is?
Yeah. So the next gen dev platform is basically how we're talking about this new set of capabilities that we have brought to building apps. So the first thing it starts with is really great modern tooling to help developers build and test their applications. So we've completely re-engineered app dev. We've introduced localhost, which some folks might have seen already. We're making it easier to test with unified dev stores. And with unified dev stores that reflect a specific plan type. So like, hey, I want to go test my app on a plus shop specifically, and I want to mimic a plus shop specifically. It's something you can do now. So it's kind of the first area of the next gen dev platform is modern tooling to really help you test, help you build and test effectively. Um, the second is around declarative custom data. We're really excited about this, right? So we've got meta fields and meta objects, but the thing that is true up until today is that they can be hard to use, right? You have to like do these post-install hooks on every shop to get the schema in place. If you change your schema over time, you have to make sure that every shop has the same schema, et cetera. And so with declarative custom data, we're dramatically simplifying what it takes to use meta fields and meta objects by having put it in your TOML, we'll take care of the rest. We'll get it to every single shop. Uh,
Yes.
and then the third part of it is Polaris Unified web components. So we have completely rethought how we're doing components to help developers build user interfaces. The problems here that we heard about a lot were a couple. First is we have UI components across different interfaces, the admin extensions, checkout UI extensions, customer account extensions, and POS UI extensions. And over time, each of those services had grown to have their own kind of like various bespoke components. So you would go from like, say, building something in the admin and be like, oh, this is a button, but then you go to checkout and buttons different props, different
Yes.
APIs, all those sort of things. Also, it doesn't work very well if you're not a React developer today. So we fixed that with Polaris Web Components. So ground up, overhaul a set of components. The props, the components and props are consistent across surfaces. So as you move from surface to surface, you will encounter the same set of components. And then also it's a developed web components, so it can work with any framework, even no framework at all. So those are three big parts, I'd say, of next gen dev platform. And then we've taken all that and we've wrapped in this new beautiful app building experience, which we call Dev Dashboard, which is really just tailor made for building apps. So that is the kind of like 2 minute overview of the entirety of next gen dev platform.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. We will dive into each of these topics throughout our talk. And I was also lucky enough to test the new developer dashboard already. So that's awesome work. And yeah,
Cool.
then talking about the developer dashboard, maybe we catch people up and first cover the question whether this is going to replace the partner dashboard or what its role or what role it's going to play specifically. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, of course. So it will replace partner dashboard, large chunks of partner dashboard will be replaced by dev dashboard. So you can think of it as dev dashboard is really focused on app building,
Yeah.
creating an app, configuring an application. You can release a version of the dashboard. Your monitoring, logs all live inside dev dashboard. Dev stores as well. The ability to create new dev stores lives in dev dashboard. And so all of that is going to get pulled out of partners dash. So that way, again, all app builders can have a very focused experience for it. It's tailor made for them. And we did that because we recognized that partner dashboard was trying to serve a lot of jobs, right? It is serving up until today jobs for app building, for publishing themes, for referrals, for affiliates. And so in trying to do a lot of things, it wasn't great at doing very specific jobs. So the partner dashboard for most app developers will kind of over time really just focus on distribution. Like, hey, I want to take my app and distribute it to the App Store. That's something you'll do in partners and kind of a distinct job from say building.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. I think it's also a great benefit in terms of ownership because in the past, only partners were able to create apps in their partner dashboard. And now you can also do the same as a merchant in your organization account. So if you
Exactly.
have, let's say, multiple stores, you could like share custom apps across these stores or take ownership if you have an agency build a public app for you. So I think these are also benefits in that regard.
Yeah, it's a great call out, Jan. So what will be true is that if you are a merchant, in prior worlds, you have to sign up for a partner account, which is kind of weird. It's like, wait, why am I have to
Yeah.
sign up for yet another thing? Now, as a merchant, you will just automatically be able to access Dev Dashboard. You'll go from like the right hand, I'm like motioning. You'll go from like the top menu. You'll select Dev Dashboard, and you'll be in it. You don't have to sign up for a new account. And you can use all of your organization roles and permissions. So it's like, hey, if we're together, if we're working together and we have a shop, you can give me permission to build apps, and then I automatically see Dev Dashboard.
Yes. Okay, great. Yeah, I think a lot of merchants will appreciate that. This is like a huge change. I mean, okay, we're sunset or we're replacing parts of the partner dashboard, adding new features to the organization accounts. How long have you guys been working on this, if I may ask, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we've been working on it a bit over a year. We recognize some of the problems with partners we just spoke about trying to do a lot of things, not doing any of them like really, really well, a bit over a year ago. And then there are other parts as we went to go overhaul this, where we're like, hey, we can do a way better job vis-a-vis app testing, and that's kind of where the re-engineered app dev came in. So it's been a bit over a year
Okay, and how big
of
is the
like a
team?
focused effort.
Yeah. I mean, if you can share that.
It's a couple dozen folks.
Okay, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Okay, how about availability? I mean, Shopify Editions just dropped. We heard the announcements. But as far as I know, it's invite only at this point, or certain partners to test it, and then it will be fully rolled out, or what's the status?
Yep, that's right. So it's in early access today.
Yeah.
There's a Google form you can fill out, and you can tell us like, hey, I want to get access to it, whether you're a partner or a merchant. You can say, hey, I want to get early access to it. We'll work to provision you in due time.
Mhm.
Want to make sure we bring folks on, as needed, and then it'll be generally available in Q3. So basically the platform is mostly feature complete now. We've got a couple of remaining things we want to finish up. But we really want to make sure we get eyes on it, that we're getting good kind of like testing, if you will, from the community vis-a-vis like different environments that we have not thought about, like in our lab, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And want to get that. Yeah, and then also we will make sure that all of your apps that are in Partners Dash show up in Dev Dash, and so like at the time of general availability.
Okay, a little bit of migration here. I guess that makes sense. Maybe this is also something we could add, which would be interesting for a lot of developers. The CLI and everything will work exactly the same. It will natively integrate with the new developer dashboard. So I guess I mean, is that true?
Yeah, yeah, yes. So it'll be an upgraded version of the CLI, but it's the same CLI, same set of commands that you use today. The biggest difference in the CLI will be with the app dev command, which it'll be the same app dev command that people kind of know and love today, if you will, but it'll be way better. And the reason it's going to be way better is because today there are many things where you can't actually use app dev, right? You have to go and deploy a change. For example, a configuration change. You make an access scope change, you have to
Yeah,
go and deploy that change. You generate a new extension, you have to shut down app dev and restart app dev.
yeah,
App dev now, the way you can think of it is like almost being like connected like to a remote server, and all of your configurations that you change are hot reloaded automatically
that's
and
awesome.
appear on that dev store. Yeah, it's really cool when you
Yeah.
see it. You generate a new extension, say in another terminal tab, that extension will just show up automatically without having to restart app dev. Um, and when you combine that with localhost, it's really quite neat, right? Because you can just have these long running app dev sessions. You don't have to restart it. It's faster because there's no tunnels. So yeah, it's generally the CLI that people, use today, but I think it'll really feel dramatically smoother and less frictionful.
Okay, I think yeah, that's a major upgrade, especially in terms of developing times, because it's really annoying if you're like in the zone, in the flow, and then you have to restart terminal all the time or restart the processes. Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Okay, I think we can leave it at that for the developer dashboard specifically. Maybe one last note here. In the beginning, you mentioned that we can now create Shopify Plus dev stores. Is that also
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So today is exactly right. So today within partners, you can create a dev store. That dev store is kind of a generic dev store that doesn't map to actually any specific plan type. But it's a dev store that obviously works with CLI. We also have Plus Partner Sandbox, but in order to get Plus to get those sandboxes, you have to be a part of a certain program that's not available broadly. And we recognize, again, this was a problem for people that are trying to test their app on different plan types. Like, hey, I'm targeting Plus specifically, or actually, I need to make sure my app works on a basic plan and works smoothly there. So when you create a dev store now, you'll be able to specify the plan type that you want the dev store to mimic. Again, basic, Shopify, growth, plus, etc. And so, yeah, and it'll be available to everybody. You won't have to be a part of a program. Every single developer who uses Dev Dash will be able to create a dev store of the plan type that they want.
Okay, yeah, I think that's also an awesome improvement because, I mean, for all the reasons that you mentioned, but as you might know, I also work with a lot of beginners and intermediate devs. And it's kind of this chicken or egg problem where, yeah, people want to gain experience using the Shopify Plus platform, but then they can't find a job because they don't have that experience yet. So I feel even for devs who just want to tinker around and like get to know the platform, that's an awesome feature to roll out. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, my next topic would then be the declarative custom data definitions. You've briefly covered this in the beginning, but I feel we need to do a little bit of explaining here to just have everyone on board. So, when you build an app today, oftentimes you need to define custom data fields. This could be a product meta field, for example. And usually the setup works while you install the app, right after you get the success callback, you would do all the setups that you need. But if you need to make changes in the future, it can be painful because you might already have like 1,000 installs, and then you need to come up with a strategy to migrate everything, right? So is that the core problem that you're trying to solve here, or yeah, let us know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jan. Yeah, I mean, I think you described it really well. Today, I mean, a couple problems. Like one is you have to do all these post-install hooks, right, to basically make sure that all the schemas are defined. So it's a bunch of code to go right to do all the GraphQL mutations to get things into shape. And then the other thing you have to do is exactly as your schema evolves. So say you have a meta object. Initially, you have like four fields on the meta object, right? And then in your app, like you said, is installed on 1,000 shops. Now you want to go add some functionality to
Yep.
so you add a couple of additional meta fields to this meta object. Well, now all of a sudden you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get, like, how do I know which shops have what schema? And then you have to get those new shops to that schema. And so what we kind of heard from developers is like, well, meta objects are cool because, hey, they're really performant, they're on Shopify's infrastructure and all that. But I kind of have to have like a database to manage my database. Or I have to have a database to manage my meta objects to keep track of all this stuff. And so we're working to solve that problem, right? How do we make it so you can use meta fields, meta objects, and not have to deal with those problems. Don't have to deal with any post-install hooks. And you can be assured that whatever schema you put in your Tomo will be if it'll be reflected immediately on every shop on which your app is installed.
Yes, yeah, that does make sense. And from what I read in the documentation, I mean, this is going to be a little more technical, but I mean, you're also a technical guy, so it
Yeah,
shouldn't.
yeah. Let's do it.
So from what I saw in the documentation is that this is supposed to act similar to like ORMs that we know from like database design or in databases.
Yep.
And what they usually do, I mean, like from building my own app, the way it worked is that we have like these different entities, and they kind of get translated into the database schema up like at the end of the day. And I have to imagine this is supposed to work similar with the new, yeah, declarations. So you basically write the TOML file with all your meta field definitions, and then Shopify takes care of everything. Or yeah, could you guide us on how this is going to
Yeah.
work in practice?
Yeah, sure. So let's kind of walk through a couple of different like jobs you might be doing. So like, let's imagine you're developing your app and you're in app dev.
Yeah.
And so you then add in your TOML file, we have a syntax to go and define the meta fields and meta objects that you want. You'll put them in the TOML file. As soon as you hit Control S, as soon as you save that file, we will automatically instantiate those meta fields and meta objects on the desktop, and they'll be immediately usable.
Hmm.
And so then you can go and write GraphQL queries to go and access them, to mutate and add data to shops and all that sort of stuff. When you go to deploy your app, and let's say, again, you built your app out, now you start getting installs. When you go to deploy your app, we will instantaneously put that schema on every single app on which your shop is installed.
Hmm.
So once again, you're just defining it once in that TOML file as a part of the app configuration. And then we're taking care of all the heavy lifting to make that schema for you available for you on every shop.
Okay, that sounds smooth sailing in theory. I hope this is going to be great in practice as well. Okay, then I assume okay, versioning is already given because we have app versions, and then the
Yep,
TOML version would also increment.
that's
Likewise.
exactly right.
Okay, then coming back to the database analogy, like in our app setup, we usually have database migrations if we use like an ORM, I mean SQL migrations, for example, and they can also be rolled back. And then there are strategies for, let's say, converting data types if you have conflicts. So let's just assume we had a meta field of type text, and in the next version we want to convert it to number. Is that possible also with like existing stores, or is there like sort of a migration baked in, or how would that work?
Yeah, there's not yet like a migration, like in place migration available like in the initial version. So the
Yeah.
way it would work typically is people would probably use like an expand and then contract sort of pattern,
Yeah.
right? So in your example, let's say I have a text and I decide I want it to be a number. I forget which way it went. Um,
Yeah.
like I have a text, I might just go add. I would just go add number.
Yeah.
You would then run a job to basically move all your stuff over to number field, and then you would contract and delete the text field. Over time, we might add migration in place, although it obviously gets a bit tricky because sometimes you'll want to define, well, how should I do the migration, right? How do you deal
Yeah.
with a variety of different scenarios? So it's possible someone would do in the future. But for now, I'd say we have the primitives that make it possible to do, but people still have to do a bit of work on their end.
Okay, yeah, I think it does make sense. Also, the use case I described is probably less fail-safe than what you described. So, yeah, expanding on contracting sounds like a good keyword. Okay, I think this is all I wanted to know about the declarative custom data definitions. I think we just have to see how it works in practice and then read the documentation to catch up with everything. The sort of last topic that you mentioned in the beginning, or the third pillar, if you want, of the
Mhm.
next dev gen platform, were the unified components. So yeah, can you give us a quick overview of like how this came about? You mentioned the Polaris components that they kind
Yep.
of look different in different places right now. So yeah, but just catch us up and give us an overview, please.
Yeah. I mean, it started like really early in my tenure at Shopify when I remember talking to a developer who was working on subscriptions. And actually, we had a subscription extension many years ago, so going back about 5 years.
Hmm.
And they had a really good embedded app. They had really followed kind of like Shopify design patterns. It was a really high quality app. And their extension was like, it was okay. It wasn't really great. And I kind of asked him, like, well, have you thought about doing XYZ to make your extension better? And he was like, look, it's like, I'd love to, but the challenge is that I basically have to write two front ends, right? I have to like now like build from scratch with a completely different set of components, this subscription extension. Um, and I think it really like that story has stuck with me like 5 years later, where like, yeah, the logic might be the same, but given just how different the components were, this was so painful to the point people are like, I just don't want to do it. Um, and that problem like unfortunately proliferated over the years as we introduced checkout UI extensions and we're moving fast to enable that, customer account extensions, POS.
Yeah.
And things are just off by enough that there's a lot of mental overhead. And like this in this story kind of repeated over the years. And so um that was kind of like one key problem that we had seen was again this mental overhead for people as they develop different parts of Shopify. And the other one, as I mentioned at the top, is that Polaris React is for React developers, right? But we have a lot of developers who are like, "Hey, I'm writing a simple, boring Rails app, if you will. Nothing I'm or I'm writing a simple, boring PHP app, and I just want to render. I'm rendering things server side. I have a smidge of JavaScript, and this doesn't really work for me." And so those are kind of like two of the big, well, I say one last problem also was because Polaris itself was an npm install that was bundled up as a part of the app, right? Anytime we change the look and feel, we would have to like cajole and convince thousands of developers, be like, hey, go and upgrade your app. Go and like install the latest version of Polaris. And a lot of developers, especially, are like, I don't really want to because like my app works and like there's no reason to go do this. Um, so enter Polaris Unified Web Components, right? Like I mentioned, one set of components where it's very consistent across surfaces, whether you're building admin extension, a checkout UI extension, a customer account extension. Soon POS will join the fold. They're not quite there yet, but they will join the fold. You have very, very similar components and very similar and similar syntax and props and all of that. And I was just working on checkout recently, and it is really cool where you're like, oh my God, it is the exact same component. And props, and it really makes it joyful to go and build something. So that's kind of like part one that's been addressed.
Mhm.
Um, the the overlying underlying kind of package for components now is a CDN is delivered by a CDN on AppBridge. So anytime we go and upgrade the look and feel of components, your app will automatically get it. You don't have to worry about upgrading and doing new npm installs and all that sort of stuff. It'll automatically take hold. And then the last thing is that these are delivered as web components, right? So that means you can use it with like any framework or even no framework at all. Like you want to just kind of like raw write some like, HTML, like you can go and do that with these web components. So um, yeah, that's kind of the full story of how we got here and why we did it. Now, in terms of where we're at, it's in EA. It's kind of in EA. It's a release candidate. It's part of the 2025-10 release candidate,
Mhm.
which means that we hope that our plan is that on October 1st, 2025, it'll be the default. The thing to note is the existing components, the existing package for Polaris will continue to work for a long time to come. We want to give folks plenty of time to go use it, but we think that it's going to dramatically reduce mental overhead and just make it far more fun to build user interfaces.
Yes, I'm already having fun. I think Polaris is actually great today. Yeah, I'm such a big fan of like component libraries in general. Some people appreciate more design flexibility. Okay, I get that. But for me, it's rather shipping things fast, keeping the design, yeah, the look and feel consistent across the platform. So I think Polaris is actually already in a good state, but then awesome to hear it's becoming even better than that. Okay, one question I had around this is the build for Shopify badge on the App Store.
Hmm.
Because I think this is also great. I think right now using Polaris is a requirement. I should have looked this up in advance. But what you described also makes it easier for app founders who build on a different stack, let's say PHP or yeah, whatever it might be, Ruby on Rails. So in the future, they would also be able to use Polaris and easier get that badge, I have to imagine.
Yeah, so Polaris is recommended for Build for Shopify, but not required. We have many apps that do not use Polaris and have the BFS badge. But like you called out, we have a lot of like awesome members of the community who are like, well, I'd love to use Polaris, but I'm not using React, right? I'm building like an app that like where it doesn't fit into my stack. And I think this is definitely something for them where it'll make it a lot easier.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. Can you give us an outlook of what's coming next? I mean, we've described the three areas. So what's the main priority, the main focus now going from here?
Yeah, I mean, so first order of business is like making sure we get all these things. Like, so we're in EA with Dev Platform, next gen Dev Platform, with the Dev Dash, with all the parts to it. We're in RC with the Polaris Unified components. Obviously, we want to hear from folks as they start to use it. What's going well? What's not going well? What are things we have to address? In the case of Polaris Unified, we know that there's additional components that we need to deliver to get to a stable release. So I'd say first order business is really getting these products to GA, to general availability, and being really robust.
Mhm.
That's kind of like I'd say, a first priority. Um, and then, after that, I'd say just kind of picking apart like one thing is we want to get deeper into testing and helping with app testing. Something that we hear from merchant developers a ton is like, hey, um, checkout UI extensions are great, functions are great, but like, wow, it is so hard for me to get a shop that looks like my existing production store, and so I don't have the confidence I need to test these extensions, these functions on something that is actually real, right? On my production shop, I have 10,000 products, different variants. It's a very specific environment. So we're thinking a lot about like that problem space and how do we help, especially like really merchant developers primarily, but also all developers create like realistic staging environments that they can go and test out their apps on.
Okay, yeah, sounds promising. Really looking forward to seeing all the updates. And yeah, as you know, developers, they want to like, I mean, they want to try things out, they want to get experience, get their hands dirty. So what would you recommend in terms of getting started? What are the best resources to look at? I'll also plug the following right here. Together with Shopify Academy, I've been working on a learning path for app development fundamentals, and we've already been using the dev dashboard. So yeah, for everyone or for anyone who's interested in that, link in the description. But do you also have any recommendations?
Yeah, sure. So the Polaris Unified components are available today on Shopify.dev. We've got documentation in an area on Next-Gen Dev Platform. You can go and use Polaris Unified today. It's just a matter of switching the version and then opting in, but anybody can opt in. So that's available like today very easily. For the rest of Dev Platform, as I mentioned, we're soliciting for folks that want to use early access. Just fill out the Google form, tell us your partner ID and all your partner information or merchant, and then we'll work to get you into early access, and then you'll be able to use it from there. And then once you're in those two, you'll have access to everything.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll also add links for everything you've mentioned in the description. So if anyone is interested, yeah, you know where to find it. Okay, Aiton, the last 30 minutes have really been flying by. Like this was, we had a good speed in this conversation, I feel. Covered a lot of topics. We came from the next gen developer platform. We've seen the dev dashboard, unified dev stores, all the new features, custom data definitions, the unified components. And yeah, I really appreciate you took the time to sit down with us this morning. I can't wait to publish this. Any last words or anything else you would like to say? Someone you want to greet? Um, yeah,
No, this has been great. Thanks, Jan. Yeah, we moved quickly, but I think we covered a lot of ground, and really excited to hear, how you use it, of course, and from all your viewers as well. And yeah, just looking forward to really seeing how the community uses the new tooling, and where all the things that we can improve.
awesome. Thanks so much.